Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It is Roots and Resilience, the podcast with myself, Laura, and my absolute legend of a pod co host, Mandy.
Oh, thanks.
Honestly, we're starting well today. We're starting well today. I'm starting with lots of positivity because I do think today's topic, it could be tricky. It could be tricky, and as our listeners see the key points that we're raising today, I'm sure they will understand that. So we are going to be talking about schools,
No.
schools from the horror on your face, Mandy, the horror. But schools from the perspective of being a therapeutic, both of us being therapeutic parenting coaches, one of us being a social worker and the other being a parent. So we're going to have a look at that today. Firstly, though, Mandy, how are things? How you doing? You good?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right. We're back in the flow.
Hmm.
Kids been at school. We're in that last half term,
Yeah.
racing towards the summer holidays. It's a scary, scary, scary
Don't swear on
time.
the pod. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and it's probably that one. I think all half terms have their issues, but this can
Hmm.
be a particularly tricky one because,
Hmm.
um, especially as we get closer to those dreaded weeks of children being at
Hmm.
home,
Yeah.
rules can sometimes be a little bit more relaxed. There's change in routine, there's different
Hmm.
activities, there's sports days, there may be school trips. Um, I've got inset days as well. I don't know why that is. Um, so it's all a little bit of a confusing cocktail. And for a lot of children, especially those primary school children, they're going to be getting ready to say goodbye to their teacher to then say
Yeah.
hello to the next teacher in September. So,
Mm.
yeah, times of change, transition, endings. It can be really, really difficult to manage this part of the school year, can't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's an interesting term, especially with the heat. Like you said, the routines might look a little bit different. So I thought we thought together that this was a good time to start talking about schools on the pod, recognizing that hopefully some of our advice and some of our ideas will contribute to the toolkit for our parents and for our listeners and carers today, but also kind of clue people up a little bit ready for the new term,
Yeah,
which will be with us in 3 months, just 3 months' time. So,
it will.
yeah,
It
good
will.
timing. Good
Although it
timing.
sounds a long time, we can do this. We've done it every summer before. We can do
Mhm.
this and we will come out the other side.
Definitely. Definitely. Let's start with a key area then when it comes to relationships with schools. For some of our listeners, this will be mind-blowingly frustrating when it comes to how it is to communicate, to build relationships, to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel respected. Even sometimes it really comes back to a basic level of respect for being parents, and how that can be kind of fed into? What are the foundations for that? So, Mandy, my first point that I wanted us to talk about today
Yeah.
was personal boundaries. The
Yeah.
boundaries that we have between the school and their setting, and the boundary that has to be there for us, bearing in mind that we are generally at home. Some of our parents will, of course, be working, but we are separate from the school. Tell me a little bit about, for you as a parent, what is how has that boundary either been maintained and respected, or how has it been crossed, stamped on, burnt at the edges? What does that look like for you?
Uh, yeah. It's it's been a mixture of experiences, I'm going to be
Mm.
honest.
Mhm.
Um, it's such a challenging position that I find myself in. Um, we've always said to our children, school is school and home is home. So anything that
Good.
happens in the school day, that's for school to deal with. When you come home, this is your safe space. If you want to talk about why you've ended up in isolation for the day, we can talk about it. We'll reflect on it. We'll see what you could have done differently. But I'm not going to punish you again for it.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I think that's really, really important so that the children have that separation. And, a lot of my children will come home. One in particular would be very, very good at getting himself into lots of little troubles.
Mhm.
But then he would be really anxious about coming home because he thought I was going to tell him off for what he's done as well.
Yeah.
So as far as the children are concerned, I like to keep that boundary.
Yeah.
However, schools don't always like to
Mhm.
keep that boundary.
That's the complicated bit, isn't it? Because we have our clear path, our clear strategy of managing that. And yet, when the other half doesn't do that, that boundary is instantly crossed. That's really complex.
It it has got to the point that when the school phone me and the name comes up on my phone, I really have to ground myself. Or even, do I really need to speak to these people? Could they not just leave a voicemail and then I won't have to deal
Mm,
with it right now?
mhm,
Because of the feeling that I was given of being to blame in some ways for my children's behaviour, that fear of that phone call coming through, that fear of being judged again, that fear of I've I've got to sort out another problem when
mm,
actually all I want to do is have a 10-minute break while
yeah.
the kids are at school and I've done my work day and I
Mhm,
just want to sit and have a cup of tea and a chocolate biscuit. You know, it's
mhm,
not a big ask. And then I feel as if school intrudes on my recharge time. It's not downtime. It's not I'm not a parent during this time. It's my recharge time.
mhm,
But they don't seem to see that from my point of view. Yes, my
mhm,
children,
mm.
I've had a few children and they have been very challenging in schools. But if they're challenging in school, I live with that. I need
Yeah,
that time.
yeah.
And sometimes schools don't always see that point of view.
Mm,
I I
that's hard.
feel I feel that sometimes that reaction of this has happened, little Johnny has, I don't know. Well,
Need.
I had a little Jellifer and she stole a lot from school. So every time she took something, the school would phone me up and then they'd demand that I go into school to then talk to her about what she's stolen. I was in the school more than she was. It was just ridiculous. I couldn't do anything else through the day, even if I wanted to, because I
Yeah.
was on reserve for going in and and
Mm,
dealing with
mm,
situations at school. I'd much rather the school had been honest and said to me,
yeah.
"We can't meet her needs right here. We need
Mhm,
to think for other options."
mhm,
But they weren't ready to have that conversation with me. So the pressure was
yeah.
on me as the parent
Mhm.
to solve it. And I just found that incredibly draining.
Yeah. And so at this point, when we're looking at feeling burnt out, not having time for yourself, not even, not even being able to probably pop to the shops because you know that phone is going to ring. It's not even the child. Well, I guess it is indirectly, but it's not the child specifically at that point that are contributing to that. It's actually the school. It's the fact that the school aren't able to reach out and say, how do you manage this at home? What does this look like at home in this situation? How do
Mm.
you manage this successfully? It's, "Oh, we'll just call mum and she'll deal with it."
Yeah.
They're the ones contributing to your fatigue and you're kind of feeling burnt out and feeling run down and just feeling meh about things.
And if we think about compassion fatigue, which I know you and I talk a lot about,
Mm,
and we've mentioned on the pod before, you naturally feel, when you're in compassion fatigue, you naturally feel isolated, you feel judged, you feel
mhm,
not
mm,
tired, you feel exhausted.
mhm,
Sometimes getting a foot out of bed in the morning is a huge, huge struggle.
yeah,
And then you're facing a day of getting the child ready to go into school, which isn't their safe space. So you might have that
mhm,
peak of behaviours in the morning, to then be on tenterhooks throughout the day, just in case they
mhm,
phone, then ready to pick up the pieces of the fallout when they come out of school.
yeah.
Where is your break? Where is your recharge time? And why am
And this
I
can go on
being
for weeks,
judged?
right? This can go on for weeks and weeks for like 6, 7 week half term, and then it's the holidays,
Eh,
and
And
then
then
there's
I'm on
another
my
break.
own.
Yeah, that's not there.
So
Yeah.
if I'm not saying that all parents have that experience of schools, but in that particular time with that child in that school, it it was just awful.
Mm,
Yeah, it
mm.
was just such a horrible experience.
What worked? What did work? Did anything fix that, Mandy? Was it something that you just were stuck with for a really long time? Were you able to help the school? Was there any other experts or professionals around you that kind of saw this and were like, "Hang on a minute, this is not okay"?
Um, the biggest obstacle I had to overcome, if I'm being completely honest with you,
Mm.
is because of how I was brought up, and it could be an age thing with me. I'm not gonna lie. Um, we were brought up to automatically respect people who were superior to us. So that would be
Mhm,
police officers, it
mhm,
would be doctors, it would be
mhm.
legal professionals, and it would be schools, teachers and head teachers at schools. They were kind of put on a bit of a higher plane than
Sure.
we had to respect them. Now I've carried that moral through my adulthood.
Mm,
And so when I've got a school phoning me up, judging me on my parenting due to how my child is behaving, I actually take that really personally, and I did take it
mm,
personally.
mm.
And I learn over time that actually they're just people. They're
Yeah.
just people that have been fortunate enough to be educated to a certain point to then educate my children. They're not higher than me in a social standing. They're not better people than I am just because I'm a
Yeah.
foster carer. They're
Yeah.
just people. And they don't know everything about everything. And actually, when it comes to my children and when it comes to being therapeutic, I am more of an expert than the teachers in the school are.
I think that's a really key message, isn't it? And it's particularly for some of our listeners who are probably just nodding and agreeing with everything you said about how that feels, what it looks like, position that you've been in, being able to hear somebody who's been there and done that and then reflected on what that looks like. Actually, they're not any better. They shouldn't be judging anyway. You know, whether they are actively judging or whether it just feels
Mm.
like they're judging, you know, even the fact that you feel like they might be is just not okay. So I think just going back and going, actually, they are just people. They have a different title, you know, they
Mm.
have a different job description. They might have a different salary, I expect, but you know, on any of these things, they are people. And I think coming back to the fact that as the parents, we are the experts, that's really empowering. I think that's such an important message when it comes to those professional boundaries. And then using that empowerment to push back and go, actually, they're with you today. This is what I find works for me. Go ahead and adapt that for your setting.
Yeah.
That's really key. I think that's such an important message.
And I think it's really important as well for those parents who are parenting neurodiverse or traumatized children. That's a full on job by itself. But
Mm,
then on top of that, they might also have full time jobs
sure.
because I don't have a money tree in my garden. I don't know about yourself,
Mhm.
Laura, but I
Not
have
that
to
I've
work
seen.
for my money.
Not that I've
Um,
seen. Pear. I've got a pear tree. Can't really make any dollar from that, to be fair. No.
so I actually communicated with the school that
Mm,
absolutely I have a phone. I will have my phone switched on. However, these are the hours that I work.
yeah.
And when I am working, I will not be able to take a phone call.
Hmm.
If it
Hmm.
is urgent life or death, like my child's run out of school, or they are being excluded, or
Or the leg hanging off.
that yeah,
Maybe there's a
exactly.
leg. There's a leg issue, you know?
Absolutely phone me. I am a parent. I do love my children. I will be there.
Hmm.
However, if it's something that is non-essential, like it has been said that he took a ruler and then hits a child around the head, but we're investigating it now. Don't phone me with that
Hmm.
because I can't do anything about it. All
Sure.
that's going to do is wind me up,
Yep.
is going to play on my mind. And actually, by the time my child gets home, he's overwhelmed waiting for my response. And I'm
Hmm.
overwhelmed waiting to see his reaction to coming home. It
Sure.
doesn't help.
No.
Email me, pop it in an email.
Yep.
I'm not saying I don't want to know. What I'm saying is
Hmm.
it's not worthy of a phone call.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Just thinking about that that comment as well, Mandy. So let's say we've got a child who is, I don't know, using a ruler to hit other children, whether it's a tap on the hand or they're, whacking them on the head or even the backside, whatever it might be. Let's say there's a ruler involved. It's a little bit of aggression here, but you don't ever see that at home. You
Mm,
never see that from your child. So it's almost like we've got children with like a split personality. We've got a Dr. Jekyll in one setting. We've got is it Mr. Hyde? I think
yes.
it's Mr. Hyde. I can't remember the story very well. But we've got the other one in the other setting. We've got these two very different characters, one at school, one at home. We've got a child who's struggling in school. You're getting the constant calls. The personal boundaries have been more than breached. And yet at home, your child is we're not saying perfect because we know that that's not true, but actually they're manageable. The challenging behaviors are relatively low level, and when they come up, you're just not seeing the
Mm,
child that is
mm,
described in school. That's difficult as well, isn't it? That's really hard because how do you respond to that? And again, there's that bit about keeping the school issue in school and the home issue in home.
yeah.
And it will be wonderful if never the twain shall meet, but we know somewhere across the line there is going to be a little bit of a crossover. Have you experienced that? Have you had that where you've had a child who is hard work in school, but you not that you're not seeing it at home, but it's definitely less so.
I have had a child. He went to an SEMH school. Sorry, I get my letters all muddled
Yeah.
up. And he was a handful. I'm not going to lie. He was a handful. And I did see some of those behaviours at home, but because we created this safe space,
Hmm.
his anxieties weren't so high. His fear wasn't so high that it would just bubble over the top, which is what happened at school.
Mm,
But they were very good at um we had a diary that we would write notes into each other, so that reduced those phone calls as well. They obviously were set up to deal with more
mhm.
inappropriate behaviours and more aggressive, more violent behaviours. So they would manage that at school, and then I would go and collect him, and they would just fill me in at the end of the day.
Right. So the comms was better. The communication method was
Yes.
better and
Yes.
didn't impact on you unless it was a life or death. We've run away,
Yeah.
or we've got a leg hanging off kind
Yeah.
of scenario here. Yeah,
So
that must
that
have made a big
worked.
difference to you.
That worked really, really well, and it did take the pressure off. And because it was a specialised school,
Mm,
there was no judging on his behaviour.
amazing.
So that worked really, really well.
Game changer. Yeah,
What I have
yeah.
experienced is not calm at home and overwhelmed at school, but the opposite way.
Interesting.
So I had a young lady that I fostered, and she was very, very compliant for quite a long time. 3, 4 years, she was quite compliant. And then at school, she got in with a different group of children. And at school, she was still being very compliant. She was a people pleaser. She would be the first one to put her hand up to answer a question. She'd hand the books out. She would do all of that. And then at home, she wouldn't come home on time. She was hanging out with this group. She was hiding under benches. When she did come home, she was so angry. She would just pick a fight and have an argument. We'd have 4-hour meltdowns.
Mm,
And
mm,
I was exhausted by it,
mm.
absolutely exhausted. And I tried to raise this with the school. And I was basically patted on the head and told that I was making it up because she wasn't a problem at school.
Wow. How frustrating. How frustrating. And that must have been even a deeper level for you, Mandy, because in your trauma informed and then naturally trauma responsive way, you know that she was masking in school because it was not her safe space, because she had to people please, because she had to use any tactic, any survival strategy she had to keep herself safe from any perceived threats she may have been experiencing. And it wasn't because she didn't have that at home. What she had at home was a safe space to be herself and let it all out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this went on for a long time, which I think shows the intensity, doesn't it? You know, that she's had what, 6, 7 hours of having to be la di da di da di da di da. Yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir.
Yeah.
And yet when she comes home, the 6, 7 hours are probably going to take pretty much the same amount of time to release from her system, to bring down her cortisol, to get rid of that fight, flight, or freeze.
Mm,
And yet the school have had lovely la-di-da girl all day, and yet you've got Hellraiser because you get her.
yeah.
I mean, what a contradiction in terms. What a slap in the face for being a good parent. You know, that's just awful, isn't it?
It was probably one of the most challenging experiences,
Mm,
having the phone calls from school about everything that was going on was
mm,
draining and it was tiring, but
mm,
it's part of my job. I knew the
mhm,
child, I knew what she was like because we were also having the same sort of issues at home, so nothing she did really shocked me.
mm,
This I found really, really hard.
mm,
And when I was trying to be therapeutic and when I was trying to say, you know, we need somebody in school who is going to be her safe person. You and I,
mhm,
in our coaching, we always
mhm.
advocate for a child to have a key person in school that
Yeah.
it's their safe person they can go to if there's any problems. The unfortunate part was that key person for her
Mhm.
was also the person who didn't believe what she was like outside school.
Mm. Oh, so annoying.
And when I was trying to raise things with her, she would not admit that she wasn't trauma informed. She would say the school's trauma informed, so we know what we're doing.
Mm.
And again, I'd sit in a meeting and I would be very professional, and she would just dismiss what I had to say. So it became
Wow.
really toxic and it became
Mm, mm.
really quite destructive on top of dealing with extreme behaviors when
Yeah.
the person would walk through my door. There is no balance, there is no light and grey, it's just
Yeah. But
all
that's
of it
heavy words,
murky.
man, really heavy words to say toxic, to say destructive. Those are words we should never, as parents, be even considering associating with our child's school, and yet they were the most prominent words that you could use at
Mm,
that time, as you were
yeah,
talking about it.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what doesn't help is and you and I have, we're both aware of this, and I'm sure that you use it in your coaching as I do in mine. It's that sympathetic face
Oh, my days. Yes.
that that
Oh,
traumatized children in particular have a real knack of latching onto.
it's like a magnet.
It
It's like a magnet. It's actually scary how easy it is to attract that in an adult for a child, isn't it?
and it and again, it's part of their survival technique. So,
Mhm.
for any
We get
listeners
that, but it doesn't mean it's not grating.
oh,
Yeah.
for any
Yeah.
listeners who haven't heard about this sympathetic face that we're talking about, I learnt about it through Sarah Naish, and she explained it
Mhm. Mhm.
beautifully about her
Yeah,
experience with
she
her
does.
adopted children. And it's when her children would say, "Go into school," and it would be pouring down with rain, and her son would turn up without a coat on, and the
Mhm.
teacher would say, "Joey, where's your coat?" And he would latch onto that and go, "My mum won't buy me a coat. My mum won't buy me a coat that fits. I've only got
Mhm.
one coat and it's 3 times too small for me." And the teacher would just latch onto it and be like, "Oh my god, you poor child.
Mm.
That's so
Horrendous.
horrible."
Oh, and you've been through so much already, and now she won't even give you a coat in the rain?
Yeah.
Oh, should we find the world's smallest violin?
Yeah.
You know, it but yeah, absolutely, and it's a feeder, isn't it? Because this is someone who sees me, who recognizes me, and might just meet my need, even though the need isn't actually there.
And the reality is that he had 6 coats in his bedroom,
But
but he
he
just
did. Of
refused to wear any of them.
course he did. Yeah. And we see it happen in other spaces, don't we? So yeah, a coat in the rain is a really obvious one. Having breakfast is another big one, isn't it? Miss, I can't concentrate because I'm hungry. Miss, my tummy hurts. Miss, my tummy's grumbling. Can you hear me over my tummy grumbling? It's because nobody gave me breakfast today. My mum doesn't feed me. Everyone else had cereal and toast, but not little old me.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they get the sympathetic face from a teacher who thinks this poor child, they have to have energy in order to learn. Can't believe that someone's treating them like that. Again, they've been through all these horrible things. Let's go and get them something nice from the staff room or from the canteen.
Yeah. And the reality is they probably had bacon, eggs, beans, and fried
Of course
cider
they have.
before they
They've got a
walked
full
out of the
English,
door.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the sympathetic face. It's so difficult because that adult in that school, whoever that adult may be, whether it's the receptionist, whether it's a class teacher, whether it's a teaching assistant, or whether it's the head teacher, they've been sucked in. They are following that child's narrative. However true it is, that's the narrative that they now believe
Yeah.
and have lodged in their head. So
Hmm.
that member of staff will then report it to whoever it is that they need to report it to.
Hmm.
And us, the parents, then get that phone call home saying, well, why didn't
Why?
Joey have a coat? Why haven't you given your child breakfast?
Hmm.
Can you make sure that
Hmm.
this is done? Or in my case, it goes higher. They don't talk
Yeah.
to me. They go straight
No.
to the child's social worker and they report my parenting to the child
Hmm.
social
Or
worker.
lack of, or lack thereof.
Yeah,
Yeah. The fact, yeah, you haven't done these things. Yeah,
based on
absolutely.
a complete untruth. So then I've got the child social worker and the school all with this tainted view because one
Hmm.
member of staff has done the sympathetic face and the child sucked them in.
Hmm. Hmm.
We need to know that our children have those survival techniques. We understand that um, lying is quite a wide stretch, but that
Mm.
extending the truth may be a different way of looking at it.
Storytelling.
Storytelling
Storytelling for a
to
benefit, for a purpose.
to meet their needs, to make sure
Yeah.
they're kept safe, that they've got their
Hmm.
needs met, whatever that child feels their needs are.
Hmm.
But the adult needs to be educated enough to go,
Yeah.
this is this child's background. I need to double check those facts
Mm.
before I can then fully buy into it.
Yeah. And we can only do that if we're trauma informed, can't we? Otherwise, we're just responding in the moment.
Yeah,
If we can only ask those questions and dig a little bit deeper and be curious and do that fact checking if we recognize that this is a survival strategy, if we recognize that this story, telling stories, telling lies, fabricating, whatever language we want to use for that particular thing, we can only do that if we recognize that this is a trauma related thing and this isn't just a lack of parenting that needs a slap on the wrist. We
yeah.
can only do that if we're trauma informed. Mandy, in your experience, and I have a view on this as well, but I'm going to ask you first, do you think that schools get enough trauma informed education themselves
No,
in order to didn't even finish the question.
no,
It's a no
no.
from her. And my answer is exactly the same. And you and I both offer and deliver, trauma informed teaching training, trauma informed education for schools, whether it's primary, secondary, nurseries, college,
Mhm,
whatever. We both offer this, and we've had conversations about this outside of the pod where we are still today baffled by how many people don't get this,
mhm,
the fact that it's not included in teacher training. I think I've mentioned before, my best friend is a primary school teacher. She wrote her dissertation on attachment for children in schools in education and what that looks like. A cracking piece. She won awards for it. And yet she had half a day in university to learn about that, and then another day or half a day on neurodiversity.
It's
It's just not
ridiculous.
there, is it? So how on earth are we expecting teachers, senior leadership, even governors of schools
Yeah,
to be able to be trauma informed
yeah.
if it's not even coming from the rote? And if you're not trauma informed, there's categorically no way that you will be trauma responsive. And this is where the majority of what we've talked about today has become a problem. The personal boundaries, recognizing the Jekyll and Hyde children, offering that sympathetic face when it's just not appropriate. I'm not saying don't empathize with the child who's doing that, but if you're being empathic, you're being trauma responsive, aren't you? So
Yeah.
it all links in. But there's
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
not enough, is there? There's just not enough out there. And again, I know we've talked before about when we've delivered training, just the difference in responses in the room when you deliver to teachers, including senior leadership, where you get almost half the room are absorbing, the sponges, they want to know more, that you can see the pennies dropping, you can see them wanting these one-liners in terms of empathic commentary and ways to work with parents because they can see the issue, they want to be informed, to be responsive, and yet there is still, maybe half is a bit much, but there is a cohort within the room that look daggers at you for daring to challenge what they think is right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is hard. And again, you and I have both said these are the people that we will dig our heels in with even more. And dare I say it, maybe pick on them a little bit in the room to make our point so clear.
I
To
think
make our point so clear.
what we need to make clear to anyone who's listening and to each other is I'm not talking about schools today because I don't value teachers, I don't value our
Mm,
education
mm,
system. It's not about creating a them and us, um,
absolutely.
conspiracy theory. Um, I just feel that actually we do need to stand proud and we need to say, I don't come into your classroom and tell you how to teach.
Yeah.
Please don't tell me how to therapeutically parent my child
Yeah.
unless you know.
Hmm.
If you've got experience of living with traumatized children, if you've completed trauma informed teacher training, then that's brilliant. I will listen to your opinion.
Mm,
If you haven't, I'm afraid
mm,
I'm not going to buy into what you're saying. You
no.
know, my care experienced traumatized child is not a spoilt brat.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are surviving and reacting.
Hmm.
And if we can change that mindset,
Yeah.
then we will see those children differently. Does that mean that out of all of the children I have had, and I used to work in schools, um, before I was fostering, I was a teaching assistant in a secondary girls' school, and that was a whole different story and podcast.
I can imagine.
It was a joy and a pleasure. Um, so it's not like I am having meetings with school and I haven't got an insight as to where they're coming from. But we have to work together. It has to be a collaboration. We're all part
Mm,
of a network
mm,
trying to
mm.
get our child to the best position possible, ready for adulthood. Now, if I'm
Yeah.
going to be falling out with their, year six teacher every other day because she can't control the class and it's actually really frightening for my child and he's hiding under the table, this isn't working. And we need to sit back and reflect on what we can do differently. What do I need
Yeah.
to do differently to prepare him? And what do you
Hmm.
need to do differently to make that work in a room?
Yeah. Yeah.
I also feel, if I may be so bold, that schools have a very different agenda that they
Hmm.
are working towards compared to especially therapeutic parents.
I think that's really evident, isn't it? And I think, yeah, I don't think it's being bold. I think it's just pointing out what other people are seeing, Mandy, definitely.
We are looking at the emotional well-being of a child. We are looking at helping build their self-worth and their self-confidence. We're looking to fill in those blocks of missed developmental milestones because of their early life experiences. And even, if you think about a child who's autistic or who's got ADHD, their brain is processing the world differently. So we have to parent them differently.
Hmm. Hmm.
For me, I feel that schools have always had a box and your children should fit into that box.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they don't fit in that box, then that's a you parent problem. You need to fix
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go one step further, Laura, and please tell me if you think I'm being too outspoken, but I feel that since academies have come in and the whole education system has sort of changed into more of a business platform rather than an education
Mm.
platform, that box for our children to fit in has got smaller.
That's a really interesting concept, isn't it? Because my boys are, in an academy school actually, and I hadn't thought of it that way until you just said it. But it I can see elements of that definitely. And I want to go back to what you were just saying about, as parents, we learn to adapt. We recognize that standard parenting doesn't work for a child with trauma and or neurospiciness. And yet we are expected to make that work in the best way. We're expected to educate ourselves, to read the books, to come to the webinars, to go to the conferences, to watch Brené Brown on YouTube, to listen to Dr. Gabor Mate and Bessel van der Kolk and Dan Hughes and all of these things, to listen to podcasts like us lunatics talking about this stuff every week. And yet education, when it comes to school, their very clear discourse is attainment, attendance,
Yeah.
statistics for the government. They're not expected to adapt. This is how we teach maths, so this is how we teach maths.
Yeah.
This is how fast you should run in PE, so this is how fast you should run in PE.
Mm-hmm.
And so on and so on and so on. This is how you write about Macbeth and how you analyze the text and so on and so on. And yet there are no expectations around how they adapt to do that. Or if they are there, they're very, very small and it's very, very hard to see the evidence. And that just goes to show, doesn't it, that education discourse versus that more social, trauma informed therapeutic discourse, the more holistic package that we as parents offer.
And I'm not bashing teachers. I've got some good friends that are
No, it's
teachers,
not
and
about that.
and they are lovely people. Otherwise, I wouldn't be friends with them, let's be honest. But
Okay.
also, they are so under pressure
Mhm.
to tick all of the boxes that they're expected to tick, to do, I'm sure I didn't have this many assessments when I was at school compared to what
Absolutely
my
not.
year sevens have, my children who are in year seven.
No.
The pressure on teachers to perform in their role, they're
Mm.
maxed out. It's a little bit like social work, and foster care. We're
Mm.
all working within quite a broken system, and we are
Yeah.
trying to make the best of it. Social workers are overpaid and overstretched. Underpaid and overstretched, sorry, not overpaid. Teachers,
Steady, Mandy.
yeah, sorry,
Steady there.
slip of the tongue, compared to foster carers.
Yeah.
Foster
Yeah. Yeah.
carers, that our numbers are dwindling because there isn't the
Hugely.
support put in place for us to do the job that we do. Schools and teachers are also under immense pressure. So
Yeah.
when I'm talking about faults in the education system and the impact of having academies compared to before, my
Hmm.
children go to an academy and there is some incredible staff members there.
Sure.
But the focus is on attendance, positive and negative points. When we have parents' evening, when we have their reports come through, it's about their attendance, about positive and negative comments put on their computer system, whether they're red or they're green, and about their assessment levels. It's not
Hmm.
about, my child really struggling with spelling and she's managed to spell quite difficult words for her, and that's a really good thing. Or the fact that spelling's a problem, but she wrote the most beautiful story. It was really
Yeah.
creative, and her characters really came to.
Hmm.
We don't get any of that,
Mm. Mm.
and I think because teachers are under so much pressure, that availability that they have to think outside the box because they're fighting fires a lot of the time.
Yeah.
My child is one of 30 in a class.
Yeah.
I'm sure my child can't be the only care experienced child in that class.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Definitely not the only traumatized child in that class.
Hmm.
So those behaviors that we are dealing with within our home, they're multiplied in a class of 30, and the
Yeah.
teacher's got pressure to we have to present this information, we have to get this piece of work done. They're so focused on the end goal of getting their work achieved that they can't look outside the box and think, actually, if we had more of a therapeutic approach in the classroom,
Mhm.
the behaviour issues would reduce. We know
Yeah.
that as parents.
Yeah.
Therefore, I would have more time and more energy to be
Mhm.
creative with the work I'm trying to teach them.
Every time.
In my opinion,
Every
obviously.
No, I agree. I agree. I'm sure lots of our listeners will agree as well. Um, Mandy, we're kind of coming to the end of today's session. I just wondered, what would your, in terms of working with schools, a
Mhm.
parent, with children with trauma in schools, what's your top tip? What's your top tip for our listeners today in terms of trying to get the best relationship and therefore the best results for your children?
Whether you are an adopted parent, a special guardian, a kinship carer, or a foster carer, you are your child's expert.
Mhm.
Therefore, when you are in a room with teachers, you are also a professional and
Definitely.
you should be treated as such. So put those personal boundaries in place. Have a conversation with your school. If they're phoning you all the time, have a conversation about, can we not just put this in an email?
Mhm.
Can
Mhm.
we have a catch up call every Friday at 3 o'clock where we can discuss how things have been through the week, what's gone
Yeah.
well, and one point on which we need to work on for the following week?
Great.
If you've got problems with your child attending school, don't get sucked into that battle because school will want them
Mhm.
there all the time. Your child doesn't want to
Mhm.
go in, you're stuck in the middle and you're trying to make everybody happy. Compromise, but tell the school what you're going to do. If you can get the support of a social worker, get that support behind you.
Yeah. Always.
If you're going to meetings and you don't feel as confident as I may sound on this pod of, well, this is what's going to happen, um, there are opportunities for you to have an advocate. I do this for my role within the COECT. I will
Mhm.
attend school meetings for a parent so I can then advocate for them and that therapeutic approach. And I know you've done that before as well, Laura.
Yeah. Yeah.
For parents who are overwhelmed, who are tired, this is an invaluable service that can really,
Mhm.
really help take the pressure off you. So
Mhm. Mhm.
get all the help that you possibly can. And there's some fabulous support. Facebook, there's a Not Fine in School page. That's really, really helpful if your
Mm.
child is
Mm.
struggling with school attendance. Um, but yeah, personal boundaries. Sorry, going back, I waffled. Going back, personal boundaries. That's really what I would say.
Yeah. Absolutely. Good stuff.
What
Stuff.
would your top tip be to give a parent who's struggling with school?
I think, again, remind them that you do know your child best. It does come back to being the expert, and it's okay that they don't. I think this isn't a, you know, how can I put this politely? I'm better than you scenario. I don't think this is about a hierarchy. This is about partnership. So I think remind them that you are the expert in your field and they may be an expert in their field, but it doesn't mean that there's not space for both of you to grow.
Mm,
So I think reminding them that there is education out there. You might be a qualified teacher, but you're not qualified in understanding trauma. I recognise that you aren't taught. This isn't your fault. You're not taught enough of this in when you're learning to be a teacher. That's not your fault. But I can help you, and I
mm.
think that's important. Is read this book, have a look at this video. I'll spam you with a load of YouTube stuff. All of these things. Send them our way for some training.
Yep.
We're always up for working with schools, whether that's, inset days, whether it's twilight sessions, whether it's specific behavior based webinar support. We're always up for doing stuff like that. So just remind them that there is space for them to grow and learn about this. And you want them to grow and learn so that we can continue to work together because words like toxic and destructive are not helpful to anybody.
It's a really good point. And actually, if there is a teacher who is listening to this, please don't take offense. And I hope you've carried on listening to the end. But also, if you are struggling with the dynamics in your class, if you have a child that you're really, really struggling to not contain, that's the wrong word, but manage in a positive way so that the whole class can function smoothly, drop us a line, direct message us, and we will get in contact with you and offer you some help and support as well, because you are dealing with the same behaviours that we're dealing with at home. It's just in a different environment with additional
Yeah.
pressures on you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That was a lot for schools.
It was. And do
A
you know
lot
what?
for the topic of schools.
I feel we've only just scratched the surface. School is such
Mm.
a big topic because if you think about it, our children spend more time in school than they do with us, especially through term times.
Mhm.
So schools are a massive, massive part of our life. And we've got to make it work. We've got to make it work for our children, and we've got to make it work for us.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully that's given some of our listeners and viewers a bit of an insight into recognizing they're not alone in these challenges and given them, again, a few more tools for the toolkit to be able to move any of those challenges forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we will
Yeah.
be putting some stuff on our Facebook page, some links and some pointers that will hopefully help people who are struggling with school. If you've got
Yeah.
any questions that you would like Laura and I to discuss, or maybe Laura, because I can be quite opinionated about schools, um, I would say I'm sorry, but I'm really not.
She's not. She's not.
Send them in to us, email us, rootsresilience@outlook.com, or message us on our Facebook page. Are here to try and help you.
Always. Always. And on that note, I think it's time, Mandy, for a cup of tea
Oh, I'd love
and start thinking about those chips in the pub on Friday.
that.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Please do check back in next time for the R&R exchange. Don't forget to send your questions to rootsresilience@outlook.com, and we will see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks for listening.